Many people from the world's richest countries are predicting a dire future for the next generation. Will the children of the future live in worse conditions than their parents? Can anyone see a silver lining in these dark clouds? And can this help you learn English in just 15 minutes? Find out right now on English News Worth Talking About. Hello and welcome to English News Worth Talking About. I am Dennis Wilborn, the former sailor turned entrepreneur, English coach, and founder of All About English. And if you just have to know what it's all about, then you are in the right place. On this show, I break down some of the most popular news stories chosen by my clients to help you reach your English learning goals faster. Join me Monday and Friday for a fresh look at the news in English and why it's worth talking about. Be sure to stick around and learn what to not say in the segment that I'm calling Stop Saying That. Just stop it. Stop it. Don't do it anymore. Okay. And today is November 14th. 2022. It is Monday, and our article again comes from ingu.com. If you are looking for a great free resource of news articles and materials made for English learners, then Ingu is the place for you. Did I mention that it's free? It's the best part. Now, before we get started, be sure to subscribe and vigorously depress the like button to show your support. And if you're feeling very generous, you can also buy me a cup of coffee at the link in the description. And don't forget to stay until the end for the Stop Saying That section. Now, I hate to be a downer, but today's news is pretty sad for the next generation. Let's see what it's all about. All right, what do we got? The daily news is, oh, that doesn't look so bad. Look at that. It's a little girl saving her money. But wait, the headline. The headline, many people think the next generation will be worse off. This is from November 10th, 2022. And yes, this was a very popular article amongst several of my clients. So let's take a look. Why will the next generation be worse off? I don't know, but we're going to jump into the vocabulary first. First is the adjective phrase worse off. Worse off. To be in a worse position. Yeah, you don't want to be in a worse position. We don't want to be worse off than we were yesterday. We want to be better, but that doesn't always work out. Even though sales are up, the rising cost of materials means the business is worse off this year. Is your company worse off than it was last year? Are your finances worse off than they were last year? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to, but leave a comment. Let me know. Next up, generation. Now, last week we had generation, but it was talking about technological generation that is similar, but in this case, we're talking about all the people who were born at about the same time, regarded as a group. Also, one stage or step in a family's history. All right. Facebook is becoming more and more popular with older generations. Is that, I'm not sure if that's really true. Facebook, I think it's maybe staying popular with older generations, but it's not becoming popular with younger generations. Gen Zers, what do they like these days? TikTok? Something like that. But Facebook, I'm tired of Facebook. Whatever. Do you still use Facebook? What generation do you come from? Leave a comment down below. I'm always curious to find out what people think about things, depending on their generation too. Next one, adjective, pessimistic. Pessimistic, generally negative and not hopeful about the future. Do you know anybody who's pessimistic? The study found that people have become more pessimistic about our ability to solve climate change. I'm quite pessimistic about the government's ability to solve climate change. But then again, I'm sure I've made that clear on many of my previous videos. Next up, inflation. Inflation. I'm not talking about what you do when you blow up a balloon. No, Inflation is a noun. It means an increase in the prices of goods and services. Actually, what it means, yeah, that's true, but it's more the decrease in the value of your money, usually because they print too much of it. But yeah, sometimes it's because there's not enough goods, so the prices go up. It happens. Now, wages have not kept up with rising inflation over the past few decades. Someone recently said that inflation was never even a word that people cared about. I think it was someone from MSNBC. She said inflation was a word that was used by Republicans. It was taught to people by Republicans. Of course, this was all before the election last week. What do you think? Have you heard of inflation before? Is it affecting your pocketbook, your ability to get to work? Let me know in the comments down below. Surge. Ooh, surge. Verb, to increase suddenly and greatly. To increase suddenly and greatly. This is a verb. Now, a lot of times, I often tell people when you think of something, you should try to imagine it in your head, like another way. So imagine a surge. If you ever put water through a hose and you kink it, you fold the hose over and put a kink in it so the water can't come out. As soon as you release that kink, the water will surge out the front. So just imagine a surge, something coming out very suddenly and greatly. In this case, gasoline prices surged following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Yes, they did. Certainly didn't help that uh, production in the United States was cut off. Invasion. Noun, an act of entering a country or region with an army. What does this have to do with anything? All right. After the protests, thousands of Russians were arrested for speaking out against the invasion of Ukraine. Oh, really? I didn't hear about that. All right. So, an act of entering a country or region with an army. Yeah, invasion. Okay. Let's jump into this article. Many people think the next generation will be worse off. Many people around the world think that the children of today in their country are likely to be financially worse off than their parents' generation when they grew up. That's not good. Now, what's not really clear is that now the people that they're talking about in the country, like right now, like, is it my generation that thinks that my kids, I see, it's not clear. Many people around the world think that the children of today in their country are likely to be financially worse off than their parents' generation when they grow up. So I think they're talking about my children, but we'll see. That's according to a report from Pew Research Center. Pew Research, they do a lot of great reports about a lot of things. You should check them out sometime. Now, as many as 82% of Japanese people surveyed, 78% from France and 76% from Italy felt the children in 2022 would grow up to be worse off. Wow, that's more than 3/4 of the people surveyed. That's a lot of people. And supposedly the surveys are supposed to represent a grand chunk of their population. So almost 25,000 people in 19 of the world's richer countries, not richest, but richer countries, were asked for their views as part of the 2022 Global Attitudes Survey. Wow, they do this every year. In 11 of those countries, people have never been more pessimistic, there's a vocabulary word, about the financial future of their children in the 9 years the survey results have been published. Now, I've got 3 kids. I look at the situation around me and I think, wow, I really do pray for my kids' future. But what do you think? Do you have kids? Are you worried about the future of the next generation? Let's see what else we have here. In 10 of the countries, including the US, the UK, and Spain, more than 70% of the people thought children would be worse off. So that's quite a lot. The number was 60 in South Korea, that's where I live, where in 2013, just 37% of people were pessimistic about the financial future, which I guess the reverse of that would mean that They were optimistic. Pessimistic is the opposite of optimistic. Pessimistic is negative. You think negatively about the future. Optimistic is positive. I'm thinking positively about the future. The survey was conducted between February and June 2022 at a time when inflation was surging in many countries. Inflation was surging. The Russian invasion of Ukraine also began in February. Okay, so that's where we got three vocabulary words at the end: inflation, surging, and invasion. Whew, boy, all in one paragraph. However, there were some countries where adults felt a little more positive about the future. In Singapore, 56% of people thought that today's children would be financially better off when they grew up, as did 47% of Swedes and 45% of Malaysians. Still not, only one country, though, was over 50%. That was Singapore. 42% of Israelis also had this opinion, although 24% said they thought that things would be about the same for the next generation. So, according to this graphic there, 24%, that's the most, it looks like, that thought things would be the same. Hungary had a lot thinking that they're going to be the same. Poland had a lot thinking things would be the same. But most everyone else was negative, negative, negative. A lot of pessimism across the board, with the exception of Singapore. Actually, Israel had 42% better off and 27% worse off. So I guess they were a bit more positive in Israel, even though it wasn't quite 50%. So good for them. Good for them. Now, what do you think about this, the findings of the survey? I always like to take the time to actually check out the other part of the survey. I really like to take a look at the actual survey. So you should, when you're reading surveys, when you're reading these short articles, it doesn't hurt to take the time to go to the actual article or the actual data. So you can take a look here. Large shares in many countries are pessimistic about the next generation's financial future. And there's a lot of great graphics here. Yeah, look at that. Similar graphics. Now, something that I wanted to point out, the reason I wanted to bring this article in, whereas I don't normally do that, is because there was oftentimes a big change between, like, from last year, 2021, to this year. The highest rating of pessimism was this year, whereas many countries said last year it was the lowest out of, since they started doing this in 2013, that is, I mean, the lowest since they started doing it. So, yeah, a lot more pessimism this year than in previous years. Another thing that I wanted to point out was, where'd it go? Okay. In all 19 countries that they surveyed, people with a negative view of their country's current economic conditions are far more likely to believe that children in their country will be worse off in the future. In other words, if you have a negative view of your current economy, it's very likely that you're going to have a negative view of the future economy and the future of your children. So that's something to keep in mind when you're thinking of all of these situations. Something to keep in mind. All right. And so, what did we learn today? Well, yeah, basically, many people around the world think that the future is going to suck for their kids. Me personally, well, I got 3 kids. If I thought the future was going to suck, I would probably stop having kids. Number 2, of the 19 countries surveyed, only one, Singapore, had a majority of people that were optimistic for their children's economic future. I shouldn't say that. They had a majority of the people that were surveyed were optimistic. In Israel, they had a lot of people surveyed who were more people who were optimistic than pessimistic. But a lot of people said things are just going to be the same. And finally, a lot of the pessimism, this is really important. It comes down to the current views. People who believe their economy was doing poorly also believe that the future is dark for the next generation. So at the end of the day, I believe that this all comes down to perspective. Many people have lived financially successful lives, but have missed out on other things. And so their reality might be a little bit off. Now, I find that the best way to stay positive is to avoid feelings of pessimism, to avoid feelings of pessimism is to remember to be thankful every single day for every little thing. Instead of being envious of where someone else sits in life, remember that there is always someone who looks at you and wishes they had what you have. And if you find that you have a need for more English practice in your life, you can reach out to me for a one-on-one group class to get some practice, one-on-one or a group class to get some practice and personalized guidance. And if you enjoyed this video, please let me know what you liked the best down in the comments. And remember to depress the like button and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And now for my favorite section of the day.
Stop it. Get some help.
That's right, Michael. We're here to help. Stop saying that. All right. I'm often hearing people say expressions that are not necessarily wrong, but maybe unnatural or a bit rude sounding, or perhaps slightly overused. They're not always grammatically incorrect, but if you want to sound more native, polite, or just more eloquent, you'll want to stop saying them. And today, I want you to stop saying fine. What's wrong with fine, you say? What's wrong with that? You know, almost every person who's learning English at some point in their life was told that the answer to the question, how are you today, was, I'm fine, thank you. And you? And look, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? There's nothing wrong with that expression. But instead of saying, I'm fine, say this instead. Say, I'm good. How about, I'm great? How about, I'm wonderful? Yeah. The point is, you're looking for more adjectives to use. There's nothing wrong with fine, but fine is boring. Everybody uses fine. Try to spice up your language and be honest and show, say what you really feel, you know. Because if you're not feeling well, you might say, yeah, I'm so-so. I'm not great today. Honestly, I'm terrible. Okay. We all have bad days. We all have moments when we just don't feel well. And when those days happen, when we have those moments, well, it's better to be honest than not. But remember who you're talking to. It is not okay to unload your emotional stresses on your boss or your coworkers. In those cases, if you're not feeling so great, yeah, say, I'm so-so. I'm all right. I'm all right. That's a good one. I'm all right. But I'm fine. It's so boring. Make it a challenge to yourself. Find a new adjective every time that you need to. Practice this on your own so you'll be ready to use it in the future. Okay, go ahead. I'm ready. Practice on me. Oh, how am I? I'm great. Except I'm almost out of coffee. Look at that. And I'm glad you're here to help. You can help me with that by clicking the link to buy me a cup of coffee. It helps to support me, and it shows me that you support my work. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all the time we have for today. Don't forget to like and share this with your friends. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you on Friday. Thank you for watching, and don't forget your homework. Share this program with just one of your friends, and be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you stay up to date. If you want to join the conversation yourself in a one-on-one or group class, check out my page on Amazing Talker, and your news may end up here too. As always, remember, learning is meant to be an adventure. That's what life is all about.